In the world of science, certain names shine like guiding stars, shaping the way humanity understands itself and the universe. Among them, Claude Bernard stands as one of the most important figures in the history of medicine and biology. Known as the Father of Physiology, Bernard transformed not only the practice of medicine but also the very foundation of how we study life. His insistence on the scientific method, his groundbreaking experiments, and his relentless search for truth brought medicine out of the shadows of guesswork and into the light of experimental science. To truly appreciate his genius, we need to step back into the 19th century, a time when medicine was still heavily based on tradition, superstition, and theory rather than controlled observation. Claude Bernard was born in 1813 in a small village in France. He was not born into wealth or privilege but into modest circumstances, the son of a winemaker. Like many great minds, his path was not predetermined. In fact, young Claude Bernard initially dreamed of becoming a playwright, not a scientist. At first glance, the world of theatre and the world of science may seem worlds apart, but there is a curious similarity. Both seek to reveal hidden truths. The dramatist reveals the truths of human character, while the scientist reveals the truths of nature. Bernard began writing plays and even had aspirations of literary success. But life had other plans. His mentor advised him to study medicine, seeing his intelligence and potential. Reluctantly, Bernard shifted his ambitions from art to science. This decision would eventually lead him to revolutionize how humanity understands life itself. At the time Bernard entered the world of medicine, doctors often relied on vague theories, personal opinions, or anecdotal evidence. Diseases were often explained by ideas such as imbalances of humors, a belief that dated back to ancient Greek medicine. There was little emphasis on controlled experiments or scientific rigor. Bernard changed that forever. He believed that medicine must rest on firm scientific foundations, that doctors must test their hypotheses in the laboratory, and that physiology, the study of how the body works, must be the cornerstone of medical practice. One of Claude Bernard's greatest contributions was his work on the concept of the Milieu Intérieur, or the internal environment of the body. He discovered that the stability of the internal environment is essential for life, even when the external environment changes. This was revolutionary because it showed that the body has mechanisms to maintain balance, a principle that later evolved into what we now call homeostasis. Every time your body regulates its temperature, keeps your blood sugar in check, or balances oxygen levels, you are witnessing the principles that Claude Bernard first uncovered. Without this idea, modern medicine and biology would not exist in the same form. But Bernard's work went beyond abstract ideas. He was a relentless experimenter. He studied the role of the pancreas in digestion, discovering how it releases secretions that break down food. He explored how the liver produces glycogen, revealing important insights into metabolism. He investigated the effects of poisons and drugs, laying the foundation for modern pharmacology. His experiments were not random, they were carefully designed to test specific questions, and this discipline set the standard for experimental science in medicine. Perhaps Bernard's most lasting legacy, however, is not a single discovery but a method, the experimental method itself. In his famous book An Introduction to the Study of Experimental Medicine, 1865, he laid out his philosophy of science. He argued that medicine should not be based on speculation or authority but on controlled, repeatable experiments. He wrote that the role of the scientist is to form a hypothesis, design experiments, test those ideas, and only then accept conclusions. In other words, he gave medicine its scientific backbone. This approach turned physicians into investigators of truth rather than passive observers of tradition. Yet, like all great thinkers, Bernard was not without controversy. His insistence on using animal experiments, vivisection, drew criticism, even during his lifetime. Many found his work too cruel, as he would cut open living animals to observe the functions of their organs. Bernard, however, defended this practice, arguing that the advancement of science required sacrifice and that without it, human medicine would never progress. This ethical debate remains alive even today in discussions of animal testing. Bernard's stance reflects the tension between scientific discovery and moral responsibility, a tension that continues to shape the ethics of medical research. Despite this, Bernard's influence on medicine was monumental. His discoveries reshaped our understanding of physiology, and his methods became the template for generations of scientists. The French Academy of Sciences recognized him as one of the greatest minds of his age. He became the first person in France to hold the title of Professor of Physiology at the Collège de France, and he was even appointed as Napoleon III's personal physician. His ideas spread beyond France and influenced scientists all across Europe and the world. But what makes Claude Bernard so remarkable is not just what he discovered, but how he thought. He believed in doubt, not as weakness but as strength. He insisted that science must always question, must always test, must never accept dogma blindly. In his words, "Art is I, science is we." He recognized that science is not about individual brilliance alone but about collective progress, built on careful observation, verification, and shared knowledge. This humility, paired with intellectual rigor, is why he is remembered not just as a great doctor, but as one of the founding fathers of modern scientific thinking. Even today, his influence echoes everywhere. When doctors prescribe treatments based on clinical trials, they are applying Bernard's vision. When researchers test drugs in controlled experiments before giving them to humans, they are following Bernard's method. When biologists speak of homeostasis, they are drawing directly from Bernard's insights. Every medical school in the world teaches the principles he established, often without realizing how much they owe to his work. Claude Bernard died in 1878, but his legacy has never faded. His funeral was a national event in France, showing how deeply his nation valued his contributions. He was the first scientist in France to be given a state funeral, a rare honor usually reserved for statesmen or military heroes. This was a fitting tribute to a man who fought not with weapons, but with knowledge, and who conquered not lands, but ignorance. So why should we care about Claude Bernard today? Because his story is not just about science, it is about the human quest for truth. In a world still filled with misinformation, half-truths, and untested claims, Bernard's insistence on rigorous experiment and evidence remains as vital as ever. His life teaches us that progress is not achieved by clinging to tradition or authority, but by questioning, by testing, by daring to doubt and discover. If you think about it, the very way we understand ourselves, our health, our bodies, our inner balance, all flow from Bernard's vision. He taught us that the body is not a mystery beyond our reach, but a system that can be studied, understood, and healed. His journey from a humble French village to the heights of scientific glory reminds us that even the most unlikely beginnings can lead to world-changing impact. Claude Bernard stands among the immortals of science because he gave humanity a gift greater than any cure or drug. He gave us the method to find truth. The laboratory became his stage, and the experiments his performance. And through that performance, he rewrote the script of medicine forever. Today, when we speak of modern physiology, we speak of Claude Bernard. When we speak of scientific medicine, we speak of Claude Bernard. And when we speak of the courage to question, to test, and to search for truth against all odds, we speak of Claude Bernard, the father of physiology and modern medicine.